Yes, I am Kim Carruthers, and I'm the owner of Physical Perfection Pilates Studio in Hollywood, California, as well as Pilates in the Hood.
Nice. So, what is Pilates in the Hood?
So Pilates in the Hood is my brainchild. We've celebrated 10 years. It's a Pilates programs that brings Pilates to those that would not have the same options of others necessarily, bringing fitness, wellness, mental health classes, Pilates, and things to people who live in maybe due to their area, due to finances, due to racism, would not have the options for wellness classes. And it's a free program.
Amazing. So what do you do with the mental health components of it? Like, what are some of the things you focus on for that?
Basically, we have people come in that are mental health advocates, and we do classes like, say, for example, classes for those that are being bullied, people who are dealing with issues with weight and how that affects their mental health. And so we infuse movement and how movement helps to heal those types of things.
Yes, love that. Yeah, that's so needed, and it's one of those things where like a lot of people have a vision to do that, but then when the rubber hits the road, they realize how difficult it is financially to keep those things going.
Yes, yes. Um, I think, well, for me in the beginning, it was just something that I said I was going to do. As we've done Pilates in the Hood for the last 15 years, of course, the program has grown. Originally, it just started with an outreach program that myself, wanted to bring Pilates to children.
Mhm.
And we're bringing Pilates within the Boys and Girls Club of America, Girl Scouts, public as well as private schools for free. And we were
Amazing.
using Pilates to help children with testing, anxiety, stress, things that they were going through in their home, and just giving back. And again, to those that live in communities and environments that would not, have the opportunity
Mhm.
to practice Pilates due to systemic racism, due to finances and geography. And that's kind
Yes.
of what started. And then, of course, once it starts, you start building and people start asking for different things. And so now we have Pilates for the elderly, Pilates for mental health, Pilates classes for bullying, and things of
Yeah.
that sort.
So of all those topics, then, like, which one are you most passionate about, and which ones kind of break your heart the most that you feel like we just need to do more about?
I think for myself nowadays, because I've been doing it for a long time, originally it was just about the systemic racism and how wellness affects people due to that.
Hmm.
So those were the big things, trying to cross over those barriers and
Yes.
bringing wellness to communities that have fast foods on every intersection. And how when I
Yes.
move communities doing my outreach work, literally there's sometimes where I can't eat because I eat a certain way and I don't eat this and I don't eat that, but then the only option is McDonald's or things of
Yeah.
those sorts. So those are the original ones that were heartbreaking. And then working with children that are, you find out when you're in these programs or you're working in the schools that a lot of the children go home to shelters or they don't have
Mm.
parents, and the highlight of their day is Pilates. And then how my program now, we have become one big family, how I'm not just the Pilates instructor, or I'm not just the director of Pilates in the Hood. A lot of these children have grown up with me.
Hmm.
Some of the kids that were kids in the beginning have now been with me so long that now they have children and their
Yes.
spouses within the program, and how that's changing lives, and how
Yes.
some of the people that started in the program now teach for the program.
That
So
is like a crowning glory for sure.
and that was one of my original things, is that take how do I teach someone to use Pilates the same way that it took care of my family, how it helped me, how Pilates has been so good to me, and
Yeah.
so that was some of the original things, and those are the joys now that I get to see.
Mm.
My goodness, I remember the day that you started taking my class, and now you teach Pilates, and you are now the person that I call to say, teach this class or go here and
Yes.
do those things. And we've had people that get sick, of course, and so we show up as a family when something happens. We have our
Hmm.
annual parties and all those things, just like any other organization would. But it's just amazing to me that how Pilates in the Hood started for me, it was like something as a joke. The name was actually a joke. I
Okay.
just
Okay.
saying the name out of frustration because I would do
Yeah.
these interviews or people would ask me at that time, because this is many, many years ago when I first started teaching, 25 years ago, in reference to what do you teach? And people would say pilots. And I'm like, no, it's Pilates, or just in the Black community, people not knowing what I did. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
I remember during an interview one day, and jokingly I said, oh, I'm just going to open up a Pilates in the hood. I'm just going to put it in a neighborhood. It wasn't just for Black neighborhoods at the time. It was actually for neighborhoods that had never heard of Pilates.
Mm.
I'm just going to open a Pilates in the hood. And then it kind of caught on. And then
Yes.
asking me about it, and I'm like, well, I guess I have to do it now.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
This is something that I was going to do.
Yes. As I love that, 'cause we when you talk about personal training too, right? Like we say like this is my kind of philosophy is that my clients become my friends. Clients become my acquaintances become my friends become my family.
Yes. And it's so true. And that's how it is. I totally have a Pilates family.
Mhm.
And we do everything together. We do cancer walks. Whatever they put together is something that we do. And we make sure, even in the pandemic, we make sure that we still, virtually get together if it's nothing else but once a week.
Yeah.
And if everyone
Yeah.
can't do it, most of the people can do it. And this will
Hmm.
be our first year not having in 15 years an annual Christmas party.
Yes.
We didn't do a cancer walk this year.
Hmm.
We didn't do Pilates in the hood in the park like we normally do. We also do a big back to school fundraiser where we give out backpacks,
Amazing. Yeah.
all the things, and we teach Pilates. And we are also not, the program does not, at this time, only work by itself. So we are
Mm.
sponsored by different organizations and things of that sort. So we do a lot of
It's
community things that
beautiful.
we weren't able to do this year because we do Pilates outside all the time. And one of the
Mm.
big things that we love and we've done now, and I would say for 10 years, is a back to school program where we get backpacks, and we partner with the local health programs as well as radio stations and things of the sort. And people from everywhere come out, and it's an all day event. We didn't do that this year, and so we're looking forward to doing that last year. But it
Hmm.
started out, it started out as something I call mom and pop, and then it
Yes.
blossomed with the national attention that it received.
Yeah. A lot of people I know that are in that situation where they have these big events that aren't happening this year. There's this bittersweet, upset that they can't do it again, but then a sense of relief that you get to just breathe for a year, and then because
Yeah,
there's still anticipation for next year, so it's not going to taper off, but you get a chance to just exhale and then plan it and make it brighter and better for next year too at the same time, right?
yeah, and for myself, I can be honest. Sometimes, you hear, oh, the pandemic has been so terrible. But for myself, being so busy all the time, because as you know, when you're running a studio and then you're running several different businesses, because again, I still have my private studio,
Mhm.
and then I have all my clients, and then I have classes and all these different things, and I have teachers and a lot of things that I have to organize all in one day, or I
Yes.
give
Yeah.
myself a week to kind of get the schedule together. It has actually also allowed me to be able to do some of the other brainchilds or the other things I really wanted to do for many
Mhm.
years that I've always spoke about that I never had the opportunity to do because I'm
Yes.
busy. So it's given
Yeah.
me the opportunity to relax, to breathe, to think about as I move into the other realm of my life, what else did I want to do,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
I hadn't had the opportunity to do that I've always thought about doing. And so it's been beautiful in that sense because I now have time.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, we would have this conversation like real talk if this was last year this time, right?
Yeah,
Like we
would
both
never
just
time in the morning be here
Mhm.
having a conversation. I
Right.
would get to the studio. I probably would already be teaching my first client in
Right.
studio. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Have you ever like burnt out, had like a complete absolute burnout with all these different things you have going at the same time?
Yes, I have. Actually, I just did an interview for Thrive Authority magazine, or is it Authority magazine? That is about burnout, actually. And you can pull
Okay.
that up online. I think it's
Sure.
Authority, the proper name is Authority magazine. It
Hmm.
came out last week. So, of course, yes, I used to work, I would say, for easy 15, almost 20 years, 7 days a week, literally from Monday
Hmm.
to Sunday. Never
Yeah.
off. And I actually prided myself on that. Like,
Yep. That's a
you
badge of honor.
yeah, it's like I work 7 days a week, and I always felt like, who am I to take the weekend off? It's like this is the time in wellness, as you know, when people actually have off of work and they can come see you, and you're like, oh, I don't work on the weekends. I don't work on Saturdays and Sundays, things of that sort. And about 3 years ago, and I love to talk a little bit about this because sometimes when you're in the wellness world, people don't know that you're also dealing with things. You're also tired. You're also, burnt out and things of that sort. So 3 years ago, going into 4 years ago, for the first time, I took 2 weeks off, literally no teaching for 2 weeks. It was so scary,
I can imagine. Yeah.
just to stay at home for 2 whole weeks. I didn't even go on vacation. I literally stayed at home.
Staycation.
Yeah, and I just stayed at home and I just thought, and I went to the park every day. I literally woke up every morning and I just laid in the park and watched the sky. Just little simple things. I took
Yeah.
walks. And I'm not a yoga person, but I studied yoga every morning at 7 a.m. and I didn't do any hard yoga. That's what's so funny. I like would get in the back of the class and pretend like I know nothing about movement.
Yeah.
I'm just really here to lie down on the floor and sleep.
In
So
public.
yeah, like I get out of the bed, I'm here to lie down.
Yes.
And I did gentle senior yoga. That was what was hilarious about it. It's literally the senior yoga. I
Yeah.
just want to listen to the chimes and put the thing behind my knees and just go to sleep here.
Yeah.
I did a lot of sound baths. I'm big into sound baths. And so with sound and vibration and how that heals the body. So it allowed me to research other things and get into another spiritual walk that
Yes.
was about stillness and being quiet and silent, and how
Mm.
silence is healing, but also silence allows you to be able to think. And I
Yes.
just got to a place where I felt like I couldn't think anymore. It's like I know how to teach Pilates like how I tie my shoes.
Yes.
I sometimes can't even explain to people how I do what I do because it's within me. I
Yes.
can't
Absolutely.
first. So those things are things that are unexplainable. Sometimes I don't know how I create this magic, but at the same time, I know what it feels like to be foggy, you know?
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
had got to a place where I literally just felt foggy. I felt like I'm not creative anymore and all these different things. So I
Mm.
had to go somewhere and do something that required me to just be quiet. And within silence, I found a new way. I was
Yes.
able to, for the first time, look at myself. And I looked at myself. Because I help people a lot, and I'm not only a Pilates instructor, I'm a life coach, and I'm a holistic wellness specialist, and all these different things for the first time within my own self. Because, in this world, we talk a lot about what you look like, and
Right.
people
Right.
think exercise is all about the size and weight loss and all those kind of things. And it became very frustrating for me. So for me, it was the first time because I also came from a dance background where I was able to look at myself spiritually,
Yes.
physically. And it becomes a lot of pressure where your whole life is physical,
Of
And
course. And
so, and
performance based.
other people,
Yes.
when I'm always looking at the physical, because movement is bigger than physical, right? It's
Yes.
about healing spiritually first, mentally, and then physically. And if
Hmm.
you can't heal mentally, how do I then help someone physically?
Right.
And so I was able to study and do all these things that took me in a whole nother path that have now been
Mm.
fused into my practice as well.
Yeah, and that's like a beautiful definition for the phrase I like to use, soul crafting.
hmm
Like that. Pardon?
Tell me about soul crafting.
Well, it really is like what you just said there. It's like taking that moment to get out of the routine of just like you said, if we're always just thinking about how do we take care of the body physically and not think about the spiritual and the emotional, those different things, we can do it very formulaic. I can just give you the repertoire and you can just do it without thinking. I can go on autopilot and just teach you, but then, is that really coming from me? Am I really attentive? Am I really being curious? Am I in a place where I'm connected enough to understand what's happening in your body?
Right.
Right? So then that's when I need to pull away and then get back to me. And for me, that looks like journaling. That looks like getting enough sleep. That looks like going for a drive. It looks like spending time with my family. It looks like so many different things. Whatever makes you come alive. That's the question to ask people. What makes you come alive? And can you weave that into your week? Can you weave that into your month? Is there some kind of cadence to taking care of yourself that ties into you taking care of other people?
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that those things are so important because this work does become just a physical. Even for myself, I have a new thing when someone's going to interview me, don't ask me about weight. I no longer talk about weight. I talk about mental health. I talk about how movement can solve all these problems, and then if it even is a problem, but also too, if we can work on the mental, then we can solve the other issues. But if the
Yes.
mental is not okay, if the mental is not healthy,
Hmm.
then we can't even get to that level because then it's just a complete yo-yo, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So I don't like to take any of the interviews as soon as my team sends me something and I read it and I'm like, uh-oh, they're talking about calories and fat burning. I'm like, I'm 25 years in now. I no longer discuss calories and fat burning and things of those sorts because I have now learned that that's not the most important thing and that's not what my journey is and that's not my story and
Right.
that's not how I help people. And normally when we work on the mental health and how movement helps all those things, usually all those other things work out, you know?
Absolutely. So when we have these conversations with people, someone walks into your studio and says, I want to look like you.
Right. So I talk about genetics, because
Right.
that's the reality of the situation.
Yes.
I mean, I do work out a lot and I was a dancer and all those things, but genetics are huge, and not one body is alike. Sometimes I look at other people and I want to look like them. So I might struggle in this area where you might not struggle. But I'm not saying that if weight loss is something that you want, changing your body is not something that you want. I just think that we should not only focus on that.
Yes.
You need to figure out why do you have a bad relationship or what you may consider a bad relationship with fitness or food or any of those things and
Hmm.
how we can work on those things. And also too, I like to talk to my clients a lot about manifestation, how those things are important,
Mm.
how you can really meditate on certain things and what is your mindset. And before you get into movement, what is your intention? Because
Yes.
there has to have an intention behind it. We just can't just hop on a reformer. So way before that, what is our
Yes.
intention? What is your intention and what do you want from that? And then I can help you with that. But
Hmm.
normally it has to be a mind, body, spirit connection first. And
Yes.
I'm good at and I can really say that I can help transform bodies. This is what
Hmm.
I do, but I can't do it if you're mentally not at peace.
Right.
You know.
That's the complexity of what we do, right? Like I think a lot of times people think, well, I'm just going to take a weekend course and then I'll be good to be able to help people. Like
Yes, it was bigger than that, right?
bigger than that. Absolutely. One of the things you were saying earlier when we were talking about like your programs and applies in the hood, I love when we start to talk about mentoring. And I really believe that true leadership is when we duplicate ourselves,
Right, right,
right?
right.
So
And I
we're, okay, go ahead, please.
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing for me. Not only do I have young people that are now teaching Pilates, I have mothers like that,
Mm,
lost their jobs or may have retired from their jobs and wanted to do something different, who got into Pilates in their 50s. you know,
amazing.
now teaching Pilates. That to me is very powerful. It's something that I would have never thought because, of course, when I started Pilates in the Hood, it was just me, and then it was those kids. And actually, Pilates in the Hood started in my daughter's school. And I think at the time she may have been 7 years old, and now she's 23. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
our first program was in her school. And I was like, I pick her up every day. Well, I didn't. I'm not telling the truth. She'll probably say, wait a minute. I didn't pick her up I did serve every day because I had a lot of help because I was running my studio at the time. But I had people that would assist me. But on the days that I would pick her up, I thought, well, I should really bring Pilates to these kids. And I'll just
Yeah.
do it as something that I'm doing to volunteer at
Hmm.
her school. And this will be our first, kickoff for Pilates in the Hood and see how that goes. And to my surprise, that program was so huge, and it got national attention, and then it was everywhere. And so it kind of just went from there. And next thing you know,
Yeah.
speeches and programs and all these different things. And now to partnership with health insurance. I think we're one of the first, or probably the first, Pilates outreach program that actually partnered with health insurance that has given a contract to Pilates in the Hood, where the program and all the classes at every one of their resource centers is free for their members and
Really?
Pilates instructors. Yeah. So
Brilliant.
yeah, so that was like something that was incredible. And that program called me after seeing us on the news. So, and I thought, okay, and they hadn't built these outreach centers at the time. And I'm like, well, call me when you get the centers built, you know? And 6 months later, they're like, we're built, we're ready to go. And so I want to say that program started I think we just celebrated 13 years doing Pilates program with life insurance, health insurance, with the health insurance program here in California. And
That
so
is amazing.
Shield Promise, I'm going to say. And so we're working with them even during the pandemic, live streaming classes and things of that sort. So it's been an amazing journey. It's been a beautiful story as well.
It is a beautiful story.
Yeah.
So what are your words of wisdom for these moms who are now venturing into the Pilates world and doing their business?
One of my big things is that when people ask me that question, always when I'm teaching and when I approach a new project or new person, I'm always thinking that people remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. I think my success has been how I make people feel. I don't think, it's when people ask that question, you want it to be so deep, but it really isn't that deep. It's
Right.
really,
Yeah.
when I talk to people, that's what they say. I love being around you. You make me feel
Hmm.
good. And I think when you're in business, that's ultimately what it is. Because I
Yes.
remember even when I used to teach big Pilates conferences and you stress out about like, what are people going to ask you about, or what, they might ask you Joseph Pilates' birthday and, all these
Right.
things. And you're usually worried about when was Clara born and
Yes.
how,
You get stumped on some weird technical question or just nothing relevant.
and you're always stressed about, and I remember I would be on my phone scrolling and I'm like, you better remember where he was born and what
Right.
and what year. When did he pass away and all those things. And to my surprise, every time you open up the floor for Q&A and there's so many people out there, the first thing for me, women would say like, I love your outfit. Where is it from? Like,
Right.
no, ask me questions about Joseph
I'm
Pilates.
ready. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And people say things are, it never had anything to do with what I thought it was going to be with and be about. So for me, that's how I tell people when you're an entrepreneur and within your business, those are the things that we never think about. And that
Mm.
is how you find your niche. And so for me, I was able to find my niche. I know what I'm good at. I know
Yes.
what people like about me. I
Hmm.
know all those things. And those are the things about being a successful entrepreneur. It's not sometimes what you think. And of course, you have to have luck. You have to have luck, determination. You have to be willing not to sleep.
Hmm.
You have to pray, but you have to be fearless. And my success is really about being fearless.
Say more about being fearless. I'm all over that.
Yeah. Well, because, I don't work in a cubicle. I don't have a boss. I don't, in the midst of even in a pandemic, understand or know that if all comes to fail, that I'm still going to have a paycheck, right? So
Right.
when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be fearless because there's no, one month you can make, let's just say a random number, $3,000, right? The
Hmm.
next month you can make 300, but you still have to keep going and you have to be fearless and you can't give up. So my success is really about that I just was fearless. I didn't do any of the normal things that people said you must do. When I first opened my first business, and I can't remember now, but I think I opened my first studio in 2004. And I remember people kept saying, by that time I had been teaching a long time, but people kept saying like, oh, well, do you have your business plan? And do you have all these things? And I'm like, no. And I tell people this, I
Yeah.
didn't have a business plan.
Right.
And I try to inspire people in that kind of way because I'm not a writer, I'm an artist and I'm creative.
Hmm.
And so I saw a building that I loved and I just went there. They had a rent sign. I went and spoke to the owner, and next thing you know, I had a lease. I didn't have a business license, but I'm fearless, right? So I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you need a business license." Didn't know, you know? So
Right.
that
Yes.
same day that I got my lease, I had a couple hours, literally a couple hours, and I went downtown to the Department of Building, and I'm like, okay, I'm here for a business license. I don't even know how to fill out the paperwork. But literally in one day, I got a lease and I got a business license. And
What?
that's how I opened my first studio. I just literally had been contracting out of someone else's space. Well, it was a space here in Hollywood that was a lot of different trainers. It was a group of us, and
Yep.
it was turned into a gym, and it was a very famous place in Hollywood, and it's private. And we were just a lot of trainers, and we were contractors, and we
Hmm.
just all rent for one space. We all still had our own clients and things of that sort. And then I started thinking how much money I was giving them in rent. I need
Yes.
my own space.
Right.
And I have kind of been displaced since 9/11. And so I was like, well, I just should open up my own space. And I found this studio in Hancock Park, which is a very, very cool neighborhood. It's like the village of New York. And
Okay.
it was in Larchmont Village. And like, who would have thought that a Black woman could open up a Pilates studio there? And
Hmm.
he was just like my story and like my go get it attitude. And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And he gave me a lease. And I tell that story a lot because I know a lot of people are discouraged, or people think
Yes.
do it or they don't know how to do it. And I'm not saying it wasn't stressful. I'm not saying I didn't have those months where I'm like, uh-oh, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Why did
Yes.
I get so big? Like
Right.
at that time I got a huge studio. I can't remember the square footage, but it was ridiculous. But it was beautiful.
Right.
But
Yeah.
for a couple years, I realized, okay, well, you don't need this much space.
Hmm.
So when you move, and so now I'm like 5 studios in. But at that time, I just went for it. And
Yes.
people supported that. And I
Hmm.
think that you just have to go for it. And you don't have a plan. I don't have a plan B. There's only
Right.
plan A.
Yes.
So if you have a plan B, then plan A never works because you know that you have plan
Yes.
B to fall back on. But when you
Hmm.
only have a plan A, it has to work. you know
Yes.
and so that's my model with everything. There's no plan A, there's only plan A, there's no B or C. It's all in or we're out. you know
Yes. Yeah.
and yet
Yeah.
I live my life with, I'm black or white, I get an A or F, I don't get C's. That's how I work, and that's how I
Yes.
live, and that's been for me. It's not for everyone because I know that that can drive people crazy, but with
Right.
the type of brain that I have, I don't live in a world that's gray. It's black or white,
Yes.
and black or white works for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I need to get to the gray. I
Yep.
struggle getting to the gray, but
Hmm.
it's kind of been my success. And I just tell people that. And even for teachers and things of that sort, even if you're working in someone else's space, always have a plan A.
Yes.
Always know that you're working, because I worked at the original Pilates studio as well, but I always had, I'm not doing this for too long because 1 + 1
Yep.
equals 2.
Yes.
you
Yep.
know? And
Hmm.
I feel
Yeah.
early that I was being robbed. Like, wait a minute, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was with you until you got to the A or F student because I'm a straight C student all the way down. So I kind of like, yeah, but
Because I struggle with that.
Mhm.
I love when people can get C's because that's the real world, right?
Right, right.
Where I'm like, I fail or I just succeed. I'm struggling to get to the C, and I've had to do a lot of work. Like when I took those 2 weeks off, I had to learn you have to shift a little bit. You got to get,
Yes.
it has to be okay. So
Yes.
even within myself, I've struggled with, it just can be okay. You know,
Hmm.
it's in the beginning, the A or F worked for me.
Right.
Now, 25 years later, C's can work,
Right.
and I can be
Well,
okay.
at the same time, like I agree with you on that because I still go after that A, so to speak. Like, but the part of it, even with my kids, is that I'll chase after success. I'll chase after a win. If it's a sport, I'm trying to win 9-0. But at the same time, I don't care if I lose in the sense that I want to win. I'm trying to blow you out, but I can lose with dignity, dust myself off, learn where I made my mistakes, and then chase after it again instead of getting the funk because I didn't get it. So the phrase that I use a lot is you'll never succeed until you're not afraid to fail.
Right. I love that. That's
You
really, really
know?
great. Yeah. Um, I think for me, failing, there's actually in this, there's, if you try something, you didn't fail. You did it.
Exactly.
You know, if you try something brand new or you try something that you never thought that you can do, there's no failing in that. You learn
Nope.
from the process, you pick yourself up and you know, you go again. It's like what I said to you in the beginning. I had my first studio back in 2004 and it was lavish. It really truly was. It was
Yes.
very everything that I said I was going to do, you know. But
Yes.
after working that, it's like a project. After working it for a little while, you start to learn. It wasn't failure.
Yes.
I just learned that I don't know why I have to do everything so big. I don't need this type of space. I
Mhm.
didn't need that in that type of sense. It was what I wanted. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And so then I learned, oh, next time, because having employees and all these different things are, it's not something that works for your personality. In the
Mhm.
beginning, I thought hiring teachers and, you know, you have your
Yes.
6 months in, I realized I didn't want to be responsible for anyone.
Right.
I don't
Yes.
want to do workers' comp. I don't want to do any paperwork outside of my paperwork.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't want to cut checks. I don't want to do any of those things. But in the beginning, that was kind of what I thought I needed to do to be successful.
Yes.
I thought running a big giant Pilates studio with a lot of teachers and space and all these different
Mm.
things would be something that was I was going to love, but then I quickly learned that that wasn't me. I needed a mom and pop space. And plus, with the type of clientele that I have to protect a lot of people from paparazzi and all these different.
Yes.
I needed to go smaller. So I had to learn that. Like I needed quaint, I needed small, I needed mom and pop. So now I
Yes.
have a studio. My latest studio that's in Hollywood is it's private. You
Mhm.
know, we have a couple reformers, Cadillac, and everything else. We don't do anything bigger than duos. We don't teach classes there.
Yeah.
And that works for me, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
after years, you learn what works for you.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of like Plies in it, in that like you work with all this effort and then you realize you can be a lot more efficient if you just did it this way.
Yes.
Right? Like you found your way to do that Pilates move with efficiency instead of muscling your way through it and working so hard. And yeah, we all need to find that space, like just that spot where we fit.
Yes, and what works for you. So 25 years later, now I'm learning how to work easier, you know, not
Yes.
as hard. Before it was so, I worked so hard. Now I'm smarter. And so I work smarter, you know, I work less hours and
Yes.
nothing changed financially, you know.
Right.
I'm successful when I don't work as much, you know. I think about the things that I want to do. I think about the interviews that I want to do at this point. You know,
Hmm.
no longer do I take every interview. Do
Yes.
no longer do I do every magazine. You know, now it's like,
Mm.
how does that, what is the intention? How does it serve me and how does it serve the people?
Yes.
Saying to you before, like how I no longer want to talk about weight loss. And I
Right.
feel like because of where I'm at in my life, that's not what I'm into and that's not what I'm good at. So even with my team, I have to tell them that's not what I do anymore. I can
Hmm.
talk about it if I have to, but I want to talk about immune systems. And I just did an interview last week, ABC7, and it was awesome because it was about how exercise can boost your immune system in the pandemic. So of course,
Yes.
something that I would love to. I mean, 15 years ago, I wouldn't probably had the knowledge to talk about that.
Right.
But many years of research and changing how I eat and how I move and all these different things, I can now talk about those things. So those are the things that when you start to see growth within yourself, and those are the things that I enjoy.
Yes.
So a long time ago, you know, that chasing that type of success was something that I love. Now it's
Hmm.
different, you
It's
know.
different. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We didn't even touch on it, but can you just talk about how you found Pilates?
Yes. So I found Pilates like most dancers with an injury.
Okay.
I had tendonitis of the hip. I remember it like it was yesterday. Really, really bad. And within physical therapy, they had Pilates. And that's how I started doing Pilates. And when I was thinking of what I wanted to do as a dancer, and I was living in London at the time, and I knew that I wasn't happy anymore, and I wanted to go into a different a different realm, a different place in my life, I start thinking about personal training. So I came back to New York, and actually I became a personal trainer, and I worked at New York Sports Club. And
Okay.
I was hardcore, like, in the gym, personal training. And I had friends that helped me out, that taught me all the things that I needed to know. And I had clients, and I was doing Pilates at the time for my hip. And then I thought, oh, I want to infuse Pilates within my practice. And it seemed in alignment with my life.
Yes.
So I started teaching Pilates and going to school. And at that time, you went to school for a very long time. It's not like now, you know. At that time,
Yes.
you did like 2 years of apprenticeship and 600 hours. And I did apprenticeship with a physical therapist and all these different things. And
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, it's long. And but at the same time, it was not exactly the. I would say there were a lot of bad things within it as well, but the
Okay.
education, I would never give that back.
Right.
The
Yeah.
education was amazing.
Feel
And
you.
I
Yeah.
still to this day, no matter what, that is why I'm a good teacher, because I studied for a very long time. I
Right.
had studies to work on every day. I had some of the best education that you can get. Later on in my career, I was able to meet Kathy Stafford Grant, who was a big influence in my life and taught me a lot as well.
Mm.
And then I moved to California with, like I said before, I'm black or white. I was like, I'm going to Hollywood. And it sounds funny. I talk about it a lot now because I just laugh at myself. It was so shallow. I was like, I'm going to Hollywood and I'm training celebrities. That's it.
Yes.
I spoke that into existence.
Right. Right.
And that's what happened.
Yes.
And so I came to LA, and I met one client who happened to be a movie producer.
Hmm.
And of course, then, it was history after that.
Yeah.
Because then you tell someone, and then they tell someone, and
Yes.
you know,
Right. Right.
that kind of, and everybody has their story. Everybody has their practice, or, some people just, work with a certain group of people. And,
Yes.
I have a certain group of people, but I also teach entrepreneurs, and I teach moms, and I do, because I have a background in pre and postnatal, and I do a lot of different things. But the niche that made me popular was Hollywood really embracing me, and then it went into the athletes and things of that sort.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still, and I work with everyone.
I
It's
well,
not.
I say that to all the new trainers coming in when I was, training personal trainers before, is that you're gonna have your niche and the person you love to work with, and they're still at your busiest time is still gonna be 20 to 30% of your roster. You're still
Yeah,
gonna have general population, you're still gonna have your court ordered person whose doctor told them they need to work out because they're gonna die in 2 years if they don't start exercising. You're gonna
right.
have that teenager that doesn't want to be there because their mom sent them. And
Yes.
that's going to be part of your roster as much as those NBA players that you think you're going to be training all day long. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. It's
And
still going to be your niche, but
right. And you have to recognize, like, now for myself, like, I don't like to travel as much. So nowadays, like, the pandemic has helped me in a sense where I don't have to travel as much as I would. I
yes,
can train clients virtually when they go away for their work and things of that sort. So things change. In the beginning, I'm like, I'm on a flight, fly me
yes,
to wherever. Oh, on this movie set, I'm here, and
yeah,
you're living in airports, and you're doing the OJ over the seats, and then you fly back, because at that time, even with that, I had my outreach program, and at that time, the classes were just on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I could only travel Monday through Wednesday. So I can only travel Thursday through
Thursday to
Sunday
Sunday.
on
Yeah,
Monday.
yeah,
And now I even think, how crazy was that? Because I would make it back to do the outreach on Monday no matter what. Like, I
yes.
can't do Monday. So, you jam
Soldier.
all those things that are important to you. But nowadays I'm like, I can't, I can't do it. But the ideal of the whole virtual thing, just a year ago, I even say to myself, why, to my clients that are away on movies and things that I said, why didn't we think of this last year? Why?
Yes.
Because
Yeah, yeah.
I'm everywhere in the morning. I'm in Canada in the morning, like today at 10, you know,
Right.
like my time. I'm with you, and, all these things that I would have never been able to do.
Mhm. Was saying no hard?
Yes. Saying no is very hard. Even just last week, saying no to a client, I tossed and turned all night because
Mm,
I want to help you, especially when I listen to someone's story. Because when you've been
yes.
teaching for a long time, your story has to do something to my heart. Your story has to make me say, okay, Kim, even in the pandemic, you're going to do this, you know? And
Yes.
so, toss and turn. I had a client, that team reached out to me a week ago, and I like, well, you know, it's the pandemic. California shut down. The studio's not allowed. And I haven't been working with anybody in person. And I'm actually traumatized, you know, like
Hmm.
all these things. And I tossed and turned for a week. And his story was so amazing that I kept tossing and turning. And then I had the light bulb moment. Bring the equipment home. Do it outside in your backyard. You can do
Yes.
this, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So yesterday, or the day before yesterday, the equipment was moved to my house. This is the first time. This will be the first client, and this will be the first time that I've ever taught Pilates at home, you know? So
Yes.
again, it's an adventure for me that
Right.
I just couldn't say no, because I knew that I would slap myself 10 years from now, like,
Hmm.
did
Hmm.
this person know? Like, this one is a story. And so
Yes.
at in my life now. These are the stories, just like we tell other people's stories.
Yes.
So me, Pilates is now about when someone tells my story, there will be
Right.
a story to tell, you know? And
Yes.
so I knew I just couldn't say no. I have said no a lot during this pandemic.
Hmm.
Um, this particular case just made me say, well, you could always just bring some equipment. I didn't bring the Cadillac home, so I bought
Yes.
the large barrel, the small barrels, and reformers and chairs
Yes.
home. So this is going to be the first. So you'll start to see on social media. I'll
There
start
you
posting.
go.
This is a new business for me as well, where I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
at my studio the other day, and it was interesting. So many people came up to me and said, "Oh, you're closing?" I'm like, "No, I'm just taking stuff home." Like, I don't know why I didn't do it months ago.
Right.
It
It
took
wasn't
me
the
a
timing.
Yeah, it wasn't timing, and actually, it just took. Even when we first went into the pandemic, I didn't even think about teaching virtually. I was like, I'm
Yes.
on vacation, and
Mm.
clients started to say, "Well, you know, you could," and I was like, "Really?" Like, because
Yeah.
I'm like in person or nothing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yes. Yeah, but we got to be agile, right? And this is it. Like these are the things that we learn, and but at the same time, like the right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing.
Right, and you're
You
right,
know what I'm
and I
saying?
think,
So like now's the time to do that, and then it's the time to do it.
yeah, Jason, and I think like 3 weeks ago, I would have never said I'm going to teach at my house. Like,
Right. Right.
insane. Like, then I really never get away from Pilates. You know, I'll
Right.
still keep in my sleep. I'm still thinking of the exercises and all
Well,
those.
yeah, and
And
you
then
know.
I could turn the backyard into a Pilates studio. How cool would that be? And
Mhm.
now when I start talking about it, then people start saying, "Oh, can I?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I
Uh,
didn't say full time."
right. Well, I was gonna say, like, I'm gonna message you in a couple of weeks and see how you're doing with the whole boundaries thing, or do you have like bell to bell
I
Pilates
just said,
outside, right?
originally it was just the one client, because with his schedule and him going back to training and stuff, I think he'll start up again with the sport that he plays in February or something like that. And so it was just the one client, you know, and then I have a client or two that's like, but, you know, you've been saying, and we're on set and we get tested all the time. And I'm like, okay, now three. Like,
Yeah. Right.
but once a week for some people, and with him, I'll be working much more. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Next, you'll see, like, I totally moved the whole studio home.
Yes. I'm gonna see like Instagram posts of you erecting like a tent in your backyard next, and then there'll be like walls coming up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting, even like just little things that you'll never think of. Like, I didn't even know how to do that. I'm like, wait, I need a tarp. Oh, wait, I need indoor, outdoor carpet. Oh,
Hmm.
wait. So it's a new studio all over again, because
Yes.
I just didn't even think of those things. My mom called me last night and said, you know, it's going to rain. I'm like, when? Like, oh,
Oh.
now you have these new things that you have to
Kim,
think about.
you like it's so funny. You remind me of my brother, like where like I back in the day I wanted to get my motorcycle license and I was like, I'm gonna research it. And then my brother one day comes home with a motorcycle. I was like, do you even have your license yet? He's like, no, I'm gonna do that next week. Well, how much does it cost for insurance? I don't know. I didn't think about it yet. Like, so like 15 years later, I bought my motorcycle. He bought his the same week and he thought about it. Like, there's this entrepreneurial, like, jump out the plane and make your parachute while you're falling type mindset
Yes,
that you
I
guys have. It kills me. Like,
when it comes to me, I have to move, because if I think too long, this thing on my shoulder is going to start saying, don't do it, don't do it. It's not going to work.
yeah,
And I just have learned I have to do it. Someone asked a question in reference to how am I going to protect the
protect
equipment.
it.
So, yes, so I had to buy heavy duty tarps that I just learned how heavy they are. Like,
Okay.
I was like, I couldn't even put the tarps over the equipment by myself. I had to
Yeah,
order things to hold it down and all those things. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't bring the Cadillac, because there's no possibility with that. You know,
right,
there's no
right.
possibility. So we had everything wrapped in bubble wrap,
Hmm.
and everything is tarped and covered. I took some things out yesterday to work on, and then we covered everything back up. If it rains, because of where it is in my backyard, is also connected to my family room, so it's
Okay.
easy to slide in.
Just slide in. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the only way that it could make sense.
Yes. Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people that I know own Pilates studios here, and a lot of people are doing outdoor Pilates on rooftops and things of that sort. But at my studio, that wasn't an option. I could come outside, but there wasn't an option to where would I put the
Like
equipment?
real
I,
space. Yeah.
I don't have that type of help where every day I could have someone move the equipment outside and then move the equipment back. To
Yes.
hire a team to do that every day would be impossible for me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I had the light bulb moment to just bring it home and only bring the things that are movable,
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
big piece that I needed was the Cadillac. And at this time in my own studio, I could teach in my studio if I wanted to, because I could be labeled as essential. Um, I just did not feel comfortable. I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
Yes. Yes.
The numbers that we have here in California, and I knew that I would worry too much. I'm not just worried about myself, I'm worried about the clients, I'm worried about
Of
my family.
course.
I've lost a lot of people during the pandemic, so it's a big thing to me. And so the
Hmm.
only option would be outside.
Yes.
And that's the only way that we feel safe. And we'll still wear
Right.
masks and things
Yeah.
of that sort. But if for some time, I think outdoors will be the way that we're going here in California.
Right. 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 Yeah. Kim, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking.
Yes. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yes, and I hope my story will help some people.
I'm sure it will. Like, you're such an inspiration. I was just reading some of the threads and some of the people saying how inspirational your plies in the hood is and just your mindset. Like, we need more of that, and we need fearless leaders like
Yes,
that.
this is the key.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
the direction that we're moving in, we're moving into that direction. I see so many amazing people teaching now and being fearless and having the wisdom and the courage and all those things that are required. I think that we're moving in a great direction.
I do too. I do too.
It was
All
so
right.
great to speak with you this morning. I'm going to have my green tea now.
All right. All right. Sign
Thank
you off. Thanks again, Kim.
you.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.